Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Focus TV. This is season 7, episode 13. We got Octavia Wyatt here, Raymond Lyons, Cardell Dudley Jr., Wilson Tarpe Jr., and we will be starting with Cardell, as you guys can see, who's checking in live from the Smith Center. GW is in action against Rhode Island. Second half just begun. Cardell, what happened in the first half of tonight's game?
Yeah, right now it's tied 37 all. Happened in the first half was GW pretty much shot the lights out. But they had a difficult time containing the Rams on the defense end. And credit the Rams. Their shot wasn't falling, but they scrapped for everything else, man. And then that kept them close, and then their reserves came in and damn near took the lead at the end. And that's pretty much the difference against GW shot. They shot 48% from the field, which means they was getting the shots they want, especially in the paint. But like I said, the Rams are scrappy, man. The Rams got outscored in 73 in second chance points, and their bench outscored GW's bench 15-7. That's how they were able to maintain and stay close at the half, which when they were down 37-35 and whatnot. Louis Courtwright, who came in, he's third on the team on the Rhode Island, is scoring that first in the assist. He didn't have an assist, but he found other ways to help them win. He had 6 points and 6 rebounds. Daniel Weston, he's really going to work, man. 3 and 5, 2 and 2. And from the free throw line for the Rams, he's one of the few guys that shot well for the Rams in the first half. He had 8 points and 2 rebounds. And Steve Montgomery, 11 points, 5 of 8 off the bench. He's been an X factor in the game. He's the one that the GWs honestly have had no answer for as far as slowing down. Meanwhile, GW side of the ball, Max Edwards has found his rhythm. Over the last 3 or 4 games, he's been ice cold. I don't think he's shot about 30% from the field in one of those games. But, he found his rhythm. He had 10 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 2 of 5 from the field. Darren Buchanan Jr., he's just steady, man. He's going to give you close to a double-double or a double-double every game. He had 9 points and 5 rebounds at the half. And, of course, James Bishop, he found a rhythm. He's shooting better. He struggled over their last 3 or 4 losses as well. He had 7 points. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 and 5 shooting from the field. So if GW can find a way to get stops and limit extra possessions with second chance points and whatnot, keep them off the boards on offensive glass, with the way they shoot them off, they should be able to pull this out. But Rams, they're not going away easy. I like what Courtwright's also doing. He's controlling the pace. GW actually kept out on them 7-0, but they were running the ball. They was running. Every time Rhode Island missed, they run them. And that's how they were able to get numbers and get easy baskets. Whether it was a 3 or a dunk or layup or whatnot. But Courtwright came back. He's controlling the game. He's kind of making the GW play the pace that they want to play. And that's the reason why they're able to control the game. And the game, and GW didn't really, extend their lead past that, man. They really kind of just jump out on them and blow the game wide open. You got credit Courtwright, man. Junior point guard, man. You need, as we say in college basketball all the time, especially tournament time. You don't got good guard play, experienced guard play. It's hard to win today. It's hard to win in college. It's something like that.
Yeah, good guard play is everything. And if you can, I know last week we talked about the kind of the slide GW was on. So about this how important it is. It looks like they're right behind Rhode Island in the A-10 standings. How much they kind of need this dub. Notwithstanding the current, slide they're on.
Well, for sure. I think GW, they're at the bottom of the conference. They're 11th in the conference right now. But the good news is they bunched up with about 6 other teams. So, with a win, they can jump up about 4 or 5 spots tonight, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. But right now, everybody's chasing Dayton and Richmond. They're the players for the conference right now. And both of them are tied at 8-1. So, yeah, you need every win you can get because the way it's looking, this conference could potentially have 2 at-large bigs, maybe 3 if the team gets hot, between now and conference tournament time. So, every win counts, man. Every win counts. And think about it. They lost like 3 or 4 in a row. They were at the top of the A-10 about 2 weeks ago. Now they're at the bottom just off that. So, they need wins, man. There's no question about it, especially at home.
For sure. We appreciate you checking in live from the Smith Center. Everyone, don't forget, follow Finest Mag on Twitter so you guys can catch all around GW recap. Does that after each and every GW game. And then Cardell, we'll see you next week. Next week, you come back. I guess we'll ask you real quick. You're picking the Super Bowl before we get to talking about it.
And now I gotta go with the Broncos extended fam on the 49ers. You know I can't go against the Shanahans. And the McCaffrey, I can't go against that. That's just blasphemy, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you checking in.
All right,
man. All right, folks. We're gonna go ahead and stick with college basketball at the moment. Since this is how we started tonight's show. Get to talk about the Maryland women in just a second. Man, they had a wild night. Anybody that was unaware, I feel like the entire area knew that this game took place this week. They played Iowa for any of those people that are in question. It's what I'm talking about. They did have 2 games last week, the second of which was against Iowa. We'll get into that first one, though, just because we got to talk about it, man. They played 2 games. We got to talk about both games. They got off to a slow start against Indiana. They tried to rally with a big third quarter. They just weren't able to close the gap. Both games against Penn State and Iowa, Penn State and Indiana were played largely without Cheyenne Sellers, which is a very big piece for them. That said, you can't keep getting off the slow starts. You just can't afford it. They weren't able to rally or close the gap as the Hoosiers kind of regained their footing in the fourth quarter to beat Maryland 87-73. Jakia Brown-Turner finished with 22 points. She's the first Terp to score 20 points in her last 4 games since Brianna Jones did it in 2017. So shout out to Jakia Brown-Turner for that. As you guys can see what's on the screen right now, Caitlin Clark, man, she was in the building. The Xfinity Center was packed to the brim. It was a wonderful atmosphere. Anybody that was there, I'm sure they're happy to tell you. Once again, the Terps started a little slow. This time was kind of just because of shot selection. And Ray, that's something we talk about quite a bit with another team in the area. Sometimes bad shots lead to runouts for other teams, and it creates offense that honestly you just can't afford at times. That said, you can see here, Caitlin Clark got off to a hot start. But Maryland's one of the teams that during her career, our Iowa career, has done a good job of making life tough on Caitlin as Iowa goes on to win this game. However, this is Iowa and Caitlin's first win during her time on that campus in Xfinity. She's now officially 1-6. So whatever Maryland's had going on, they typically haven't had the issue that the rest of the country has had with Caitlin at times because they usually own the glass and they always have a bevy of wings to throw her way. Again, shout out to Cheyenne Sellers for coming back this game. She said early in the week she was just trying to do whatever she needed to from a physical therapy standpoint just to make herself available to play, and her team needed it. And shout out to her for showing off her versatility. But the third quarter here, you're seeing this right here. Maryland went down as many as 17 in the first half. I don't know what was said in the locker room. They came out in the third, and they started to look like Maryland. They started playing defense. They started to rebound. Ray, tell me if this is familiar. They started to rebound and run in transition and cause problems for the other team. They went on a 23-3 run in the third quarter to take control of the game, even went up at times. But credit Iowa. Caitlin hit a huge shot as when, peak Maryland momentum, hit a 3 to kind of, it didn't quiet anything down, but it stopped the Maryland run. Then Iowa went on an 8-0 run to kind of close the quarter. But what you're seeing right here at the end of the game, this is what hurt Maryland. They were within striking range. They couldn't end defensive possessions with rebounds. That's where everything happened. It was simple as that. The last minute and 30 seconds of this game, or not maybe full minute and 30, but I was able to almost bleed off that much time on offense because of getting multiple chances, per possession. Maryland with great defense on the initial shot, good defense on the second shot. But after a certain point in time, you have to secure the rebound so you can get back and do what you need to do. But again, I think the biggest thing to take away from this weekend's game was Maryland's character. They've been up and down this year. They've been through some things, especially from an injury standpoint. Down 17, bright lights, nationally televised. You could easily go the other way. They did the opposite. They were amazing in that third quarter. They just couldn't close. Also, something to keep in mind as we get closer to Selection Monday down to, I feel like I want to say, down the stretch, but we're like a couple of weeks away from Selection Monday. I feel like we're going to wake up after the Super Bowl and it's going to be Selection Monday. Maryland had the second toughest strength of schedule in the country. So keep that in mind. One of the things both Caitlin Clark and her coach shared after the game was you can't look at Maryland because of their record. Like, I think they're 12-10. That's not indicative of who they are or what they've seen this year, because some of those losses are top 10 team L's that they took early in the season. Then not even talking about what the Big Ten presents teams with, but it's all Maryland to handle their business down the stretch. But it was a heck of an atmosphere. We covered Maryland for a while. I think that's up there in terms of atmosphere. That's up there with the South Carolina games, the UConn games. So great job to all the folks that came out and supported that game. And Iowa fans traveled. They were heard in there too. You had Caitlin first came out for warmups, loud boos in there from the crowd, and then it turned to cheers when the rest of the Iowa team came out. After a couple of the first 25 plus foot threes, the crowd, you couldn't tell what was what, but it was a fun crowd. Clark had 38 points and 12 assists in this game. Molly Davis, big game for Iowa, 17 points as well. Maryland got a balanced effort. 4 players finishing double figures. Jakia Brown-Turner continued her streak of 20 points scored in a game. She had 25 points in this one with 9 rebounds. Bree McDaniel had 22 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists, and she was huge in that third quarter when Maryland kind of became the aggressor. And they decided, honestly, when they were talking after the game, that was when Maryland decided to punch back, and it was a hell of a punch in the third quarter. Not only to cut it to single digits, but to even take the lead a couple times there in the third. Cheyenne Sellers gutting it out on triple-double watch, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists on one leg. She was not moving very well, and she played 39 minutes. They were joking after the game about, minutes restriction. She played 39 against 40 minutes. Shout out to her for that. And Renee Alexander chipped in with 12 points and 3 steals. Really fun game, really fun atmosphere. But for Maryland, you got to handle business as we head down the stretch here in Big Ten play. We're going to take our first break. When we get back, we're going to talk to Ray about what the Washington Wizards have been up to. Sorry, Ray. Apologize, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. You're watching the Focus TV. Welcome back. As promised, Ray, the floor is yours. The Washington Wizards, what have they been up to since the last time you talked to these good people?
Yeah, man, they went on the road, had a nice two-game honeymoon with the coaching change. Then came back home to the real world, dropped 3 in a row over the last week to the Clippers, the Heat, and to the Phoenix Suns on Sunday. Of course, the Phoenix game was the first time Bradley Beal played at Capital One in a visitor's uniform. And, he made his presence felt immediately. He had a hell of a game, man. Bill, he finished the game with 43 points, 16 to 21 from the floor, 4 for 5 from 3, perfect from the line. Also added 6 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals. Yeah, man, it was just total dominance. And they, of course, they paid him his respect, gave him a tribute video as, they should have, because he was here for a while. He did a lot of good things here, but for the Wizards, it was just the same things we've been talking about. No fight, no defensive pressure. Trying to go tit for tat offensively with a team with KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal on it is not wise. So that game ended how we expected it to end. And it was no Kuz, no Marvin Bagley, but still, man, the guys that did show up, they got to compete as professionals, and that's just not what happened. A couple guys they did bring their lunch pail. Denny had a solid game. Gav, he's been pretty much the mainstay in regards to effort throughout the season, but he had a monster to deal with in Nurkic. We were talking about on Wizards Outlook. That's 7 feet 290, man. And Gav is already an undersized big. So, all that pounding and him putting his chest into you, that takes the spring out those legs. And, Gav, it was just a lot to deal with, man. He was overwhelmed, to be perfectly honest. And it started from jump ball. They just dumped it down. Nurkic punished them, and then everything else blossomed from there. So, currently the Wizards standing 9-40. That's disgusting. But yeah. So what they got coming up? Got a couple more games this week. They play Cleveland at home tomorrow, then go on the road to play the Celtics on Friday, and then come back home for Philly for a back-to-back. So yeah, tough sledding for the Wizards, man.
Yeah, that was Sunday's game against Phoenix was rough. I don't know another way to put that, but I think you guys summed it up pretty well on Outlook that evening. We're gonna. Everyone's wondering about the NBA right now in terms of who's getting moved where, if people are moving, where people are moving to. So we've had a lot of folks in the comments there in Wizards Outlook this season talking about this time of years. You guys get your answers. Moves going to be made or they won't. It's going to be that simple. So the good thing is you'll have your answer this week, and then we can answer your questions for you. Or it could be the bad news if what you want to happen does not, in fact, happen. We will see. But Octavia, big games here. Floor is yours. Lead us through this Super Bowl preview.
The time has come for us to have our final football game of this season. I'm sad because football's over. I'm happy because football's over because, like I said, you get a fresh, clean slate. I can start being a fan again. But in all honesty, I'm very sad, that the season's over. But this is the game we've been waiting for all year. Again, it's a Super Bowl rematch from 2020, between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. 2019, thank you. So the game is going to be this week, Sunday, February 11th, in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. This is the Chiefs advanced to the Super Bowl for the fourth time in 5 seasons after they went into Baltimore and defeated the number 1 seed, Baltimore Ravens 17-10 in the AFC Championship game. And the 49ers will be the representative of the NFC side after they rallied from a 17-point halftime deficit to beat the Detroit Lions in a 34-31 game. And we're back again. Again, like I said, this is the rematch of Super Bowl 54, where the Chiefs won their first Lombardi trophy. Patrick Mahomes won that game 31-20 4 years ago in Miami. I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I feel like these teams are, I don't want to say evenly matched, but I feel like yes and no. To me, it's going to come down to 2 things: Kansas City's defense versus San Francisco's offense, and Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes. As we know, Spags has Kansas City defense clicking on all cylinders, but on the San Francisco side, they have so many weapons that I'm very interested to see how Spags is going to drop his game plan to control the likes of Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuels, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and whoever else they throw out there in the mix. Juszczyk. They have so many different things that they can throw at you, not to mention the brilliance of Kyle Shanahan. And a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but it's always a get back game. A team that you lost to in the Super Bowl, you get a chance to see them again 4 years later. It's definitely got to be something, even though all of these players, of course, weren't on that 2019 team. But it still resonates throughout their entire franchise. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then, it comes down to superstar Patrick Mahomes and game manager Brock Purdy. If that's what you want, it's an air quote. That's not me saying this. This is just the talk of the town. Is Brock going to be poised enough to be able to, handle the spotlight? Because that this is still going to be a very, very big game. But I think he's shown that he's able to, especially in the 2 games that led up to them getting to the Super Bowl, having to come back, from deficits, having to stay level-headed to be able to pull out those W's, especially in the Detroit game where it looked like Detroit was going to cruise, and granted, we talk about all the offensive players that they have, the Christian McCaffreys, the Debos, but only one player starts to play with the ball in their hand, and that's Brock Purdy. So he has to be able to make, the correct decisions. Granted, whoever he gives the ball to has to protect it as well, but he's, the head of the snake, and he's going to have to lead his team out there. So anybody who says that that's not how it's going to go is crazy. It has to be with him. So yeah, but for me, it's always hard to count out a Patrick Mahomes. This was statistically his worst season in his 6-year NFL career. For it to be statistically your worst season, and some of that not even really be your fault. You talk about the drops and the miscues from his offense as well. To be able to get back to the big game definitely says a lot. I mean, we talk about the brilliance of Kyle Shanahan. Also got to look at the brilliance of Andy Reid, who has a stellar track record when it comes to big games after he left Philadelphia. So it's definitely going to be a battle of the minds when it comes to that. It seems like the Chiefs have been clicking a lot more in the latter part of the season. There are some games early on, mind you, when they played against the Philadelphia Eagles that could have went the other way, just had a couple of plays been made. But those plays have been made in these last couple of games. There's been key catches that players earlier in the year weren't catching. I didn't look at the stats for this one, but I'm sure this could be considered a down year for Travis Kelce as well. With as great as he's been, but these last 2 games, he's come alive as well. So it's definitely going to be those. To me, that's just what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to, can Kansas City's elite defense at this point really stop, the offensive firepower that the 49ers have? We know Chris Jones, is having a monster year as well. And Spags is just dialing it up. It's kind of been crazy to really see. So I think that's going to be a big point. But even on the opposite side of it, the 49ers defense, if you want to look at statistics, is trending in a downward way just off of the last 2 games that they've had. But we know the type of unit that they are. We know the Fred Warners, the Nick Bosas. I have to look into this rumor. I don't know what's going on with Chase Young. I'll leave that alone.
Nothing.
Thanks for telling me.
Someone started.
I just saw a rumor and I was like, huh? And I didn't really look into it. So cool. That doesn't even matter. So again, we know how their defensive unit is as well. So I'm just looking forward to the game at this point. Probably put some picks in. Hopefully win some money out there. Hopefully. I know Cardell, before we let him go, made his pick. And I'm just going to kind of follow suit, I just can't pick the NFC teams because I'm in the NFC and I don't want the NFC team to win. So I'm going to go the Chiefs just because, again, I think this is going to be a super close game. And it's really going to come down. I really think I talked about defense of Kansas City versus the offense of 49ers, but I really think it's going to come down to if Patrick Mahomes is still that guy. And he has proven time and time again that he is that guy, but is the defense going to be able to stop him when the time counts? Never know. But I'm excited that we're going to get a good game. I don't feel like any team has snuck their way in where you feel like one team has a huge advantage over the other one. And that's kind of what I meant by even playing field, or, they match up well. They both are true and tried and true team. They have great leadership. They have great leadership in the coaching staff as well as in the players. So, both sides are going to be raring to go. And, once they finish up all this media that they have to do in the beginning of this week, I'm sure they'll start buckling down and we'll really get to the nitty gritty of the game. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to Sunday. But I'll be sad after Sunday because then there's no more football. But we get to start over. So there's that.
All right, Ray, your thoughts on the big game?
Yeah, man, I think it's going to be competitive. I would definitely be shocked if either of these teams, blow out the other. It's definitely going to be a chess match. Kansas City, their AFC Championship game, I feel like they won the chess match with Baltimore's play calling, which, was just puzzling. 6 run plays throughout the entire course of the game. Like that's craziness. And Kansas City took advantage, and Baltimore had some other miscues as well. But I don't think the 49ers are going to make those same mistakes. And yeah, this is the litmus test for Brock Purdy. If he can play how he's been playing, then I think San Francisco got a great chance. Mahomes, like Octavia said, you really can't ever count him out. I think we have been talking pretty consistently throughout the season about how this just didn't look like their year, especially with how they started. But here they are, one of the last 2 teams standing. So, I mean, what more can you do but tip your hat off to them? And their defense has held up extremely well. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Look, I have a horse in this race, so it is what it is. Interested to seeing if I do think it's totally different than the last time they got here. You don't feel, I don't think, at least I know for me personally, I'm not going into the game like, I hope the QB doesn't mess it up. I hope the QB doesn't mess up. I hope the QB doesn't mess it up. I hope the QB, like, that's not a thing, right? Because there's like these narratives about, oh, the Niners went away from the run game. So there's this thing with Kyle offenses where you get 2 plays, you can check, and you can keep the pass player check into a run and vice versa. Someone who has gotten out of this pretty much unscathed, untouched somehow from the blame game, switched run plays to pass plays quite frequently, and then failed to complete said pass plays. And here we are. That said, it's a different Chiefs team. It's a different Niners team. Like you said, Octavia, you got a few members from each group that remembers 19. But for the most part, what I think is kind of cool is for both sides, most of the people that were there in 19, everyone was a baby.
True. In
19, for the most part, everyone was a baby or they hadn't yet become who they are. Like that was Pat's first go round to the Super Bowl. And we saw him lighten up the league, but that was the official. I'm here. All y'all have to deal with me. Henceforth, from this point on, I'm Patrick Mahomes, and the AFC is mine now. So, I mean, some things I'll be looking at. Andy versus Wilkes. Andy's had fun against the Niners in every regular season matchup since winning the Super Bowl. He does what he wants. So that's something I don't know how much people are talking about, but Andy sees our defense, and unlike most people, Andy's like, yay, time to expose it. So we'll see how things go under Steve Wilkes. Kyle versus Spags is going to be fun. Steve Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive coordinators in the game that people somehow just ignore and forget, but that's kind of why the offense deficient Chiefs this year. It's just that their offense had to get bad for everyone to notice their defense. That's all that happened. They had a defense in 19. They had one the other time they went. Like it never left. And this year has done a hell of a job. The Niners D-line versus the Chiefs O-line. It's hard to get pressure on Patrick. It is what it is. I know people and fans get into like, well, they hold, every team holds. So it is what it is. If they're better at it than you, get mad at your team and what they teach and coach. Because if you can coach a way to get away with it, how are you mad about it? Like, beat your man to don't. Then on the other side, the 49ers O-line versus Chris Jones. Chris Jones wrecked the last game. When you know who was back there checking into whatever plays he wanted. Chris Jones was batting passes, destroying worlds, walking through whoever he wanted in the second half of that game. And it kind of worked out where the Chiefs won. Go figure. Defensive pressure and whatnot, especially interior defensive pressure. For both teams, I think it's going to come down to missed tackles. Isaiah Pacheco runs extremely hard. We've also seen some of the times the Niners have had issues is they just miss tackles. Like the first 5 weeks of the season, they did a good job tackling. The next 6 weeks, they were trash tackling. Also, some of the losses happen because if you don't tackle people, bad things happen. First half, the Green Bay game, no tackle people. Second half, tackle people. First half against Detroit, no tackle any Lions. Second half, hit every Lion that moves. You see there's kind of something that helps there. And obviously for the Chiefs, it's a different thing too, where the Niners, yak-wise, that's a whole lot to deal with for every defense. It usually takes more than one guy to bring whoever it is whatever ball carrier it is, down. So that's something where, again, neither team can afford. Missed tackles. And lastly, from like a little nerd standpoint, the Chiefs do struggle with 21 personnel. 21 personnel is 2 backs, 1 tight end. The Niners live in 21 personnel. So that's going to be something where both teams had a week to prepare for it. We know there's some very, very astute football minds on both sides of this. So I know if you're the Chiefs, the Niners aren't going to, not use 21 personnel. They're going to continue to live in it. That's where they lived at in the second half against Detroit. That's why I think sometimes you guys see 44 in all the time for the Niners. They get away with juice versatility where he can line up as tight end too, line up on the line as a second tight end, but he's also the fullback. But technically, he's still a back, so it remains 21 personnel. And they get the mixing and match and stuff. So it's going to be fun. Like you said, Ray, chess match should be close. I think for it to get out of hand, somebody got to make some mistakes, multiple mistakes. That said, looking forward to a good game. And, I'm already broken. So if they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. So I've seen more than enough of the endings in both categories. But hey, I would like it very much if they do the thing, I would appreciate that. However, the other side of it is the reversing, of course, on Brock Purdy. If they do win, is going to be disgusting, and I'm going to struggle to deal with it. I'm going to really struggle to deal with it. Ray, you know what I'm talking about when people jump all the way out there and go left on something, and it's time to reverse course, and it's, I think it's the greatest thing ever now. Like, it's sometimes looking forward to it. Hope everyone enjoys. Again, we'll take our second break. When we get back, rapid fire. We got some, I accidentally clicked the picture already, but we got some interesting topics to talk about within the WNBA. You're watching the Focus TV. We will return shortly. Welcome back. As promised, let's jump into rapid fire, see what we got this week. We had the pictures up there, so put it back up there. One Kalia Copper. W offseason has officially begun. There have been multiple signings. I said this is the biggest trade thus far, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on it. So the Chicago Sky are sending Kalia Copper to the Phoenix Mercury for 4 draft picks, one of which happens to be the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, the 2024 draft, which, depending on who comes out, I don't think you can have a wrong answer at who's sitting there at 3. If you were the team that had the 3rd overall pick, along with Brianna Turner and Michaela Onyenwere. The other 3 picks in the draft, other 3 picks acquired in this trade were the Mercury's 2026 first-round pick, their 2025 pick rights, I think that's second-round pick, and then a 2026 pick swap with Phoenix. With Phoenix, that's what Chicago gets. The Mercury also received Morgan Burch along with Kalia Copper. Thoughts on the 2021 WNBA Finals MVP heading out west? Ray, we'll start with you and then Octavia.
It was obviously some transition going on in Chicago. It's wild to think just what was that, 3 years ago they were champions, and that team is pretty much dismantled, like from the coach down to the last player. So that was wild to see that unfold in such a quick time. But yeah, they're obviously trying to go in a new direction. For Kalia, it's hard to gauge. If I obviously I don't know. But if I had to guess, I would say this is not something she wanted. But the business is the business, man. And she's going to a situation in Phoenix that's not the most stable at the moment. They did also bring in Natasha Cloud, but and of course Brittany Griner is there. But outside of those 3, and losing Bree Turner is big. So yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how they look, or if they, make some more moves or what have you. But, Chicago got a decent haul in return, especially with that 3rd pick, So, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, man. It's going to be weird to see Kalia in another setting. She had pretty much become the embodiment of the Chicago Sky. Like you mentioned, Finals MVP. And 3 years later is traded while she's still producing at that same level. So yeah, it'll be interesting to know what that what brought that decision about. But yeah, man, just definitely looking forward to seeing what she could bring in her new spot.
Octavia?
Yeah, same. It's definitely weird to see that entire Chicago team dismantled from the head coach. I can't think his last name, but James, and Kalia gone, Candace gone, Allie gone, like everybody gone. To think of how fast it turns over. But, as we talk about a lot, that's kind of how it goes in the WNBA. It can be there today and gone tomorrow, in that aspect of it. But to me, it just looks like Chicago is trying to start from scratch. They're just, trying to build their own team. Correct me if I'm wrong. Their new coach is, I don't want to say the wrong name, so I'll hold my tongue. But they definitely are. To me, that's just what it looks like. And then, like you said, to go to Phoenix, who's also, unless they name the interim coach as the head coach, is also coming with a new head coach. And then, having Brittany Griner, is Diana Taurasi coming back? Sad to see Natasha Cloud leave Washington, but for her to be out there, what's going to happen with Skylar Diggins? They have a lot of unanswered questions as well. And then, like you said, it's also Lisbeth Turner. That's what I was going to say. I was definitely going to say Teresa Weatherspoon, but I wasn't. I didn't want to be wrong because it's Teresa Weatherspoon. I knew she got a head coaching job, and I couldn't remember exactly which one. So, yeah, I think that she is just wanting, her control over, this is what I want from top to bottom. Not to say that Kalia Copper isn't that, but, going into a head coaching position, you want the people that you want. So that's just my only thought. And then probably, who knows what Kalia wanted, but if they were breaking it down like this is like a full rebuild, maybe she didn't want to stick around for a full rebuild as well. But you never know. But I think that she's a great player. I think that she can flourish pretty much anywhere she goes with the type of player that she is, the type of motor that she has, and the type of, fire that she plays with. So I'm interested to see how it works out. I'm pretty much interested in a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the WNBA this year, because, like you said, there's always so much movement. So I'm super excited to see how that kind of plays out, and looking to see what happens for her going forward.
Yeah, I'm with both of y'all. 1, I wasn't expecting it. 2, kind of shocked, and then 3, like I think we've seen like when James Wade was left so quickly. It's kind of like, all right, something's up in Chicago. Don't know exactly what's happening. Something's going to happen, but you didn't know when and how fast and to what degree. And now we found out all those things in one trade. The other thing, as you said, Octavia, I'm just anxious to see what the rest of the offseason looks like, right? Because we've had several signings, one big trade. There's other people that may or may not be on the move that are kind of on standby. So what are the corresponding moves after this, right? Or what are the moves that kind of have been sitting on ice and then this happened? So how does that affect those things? We'll see what happens as we go forward. That said, staying in the W, the Seattle Storm have been busy. They signed Skylar Diggins-Smith and former league MVP Nneka Ogwumike to start off the free agency period. Octavia, we'll start with you. The thoughts of them joining Jewel Lloyd and company in Seattle.
Yeah, like you just said, I didn't even know that. I missed that news. I didn't know Skylar had signed with them as well. After the turmoil that she had in Phoenix with her situation as well, I'm sure she's anxious to get a clean start. And Seattle's not a bad place to do it. Granted, we know Seattle lost Stewie last year, but Jewel did everything she could possibly do to drag them as far as she could possibly do. So for her to get Skylar in there as well as Nneka, they got a little bit of a little bit of stuff going on out there. I'm super excited to see how Nneka and Jewel play together. It's definitely going to be a time out there in Seattle, and I know Seattle is looking to get back to their, glory days of the Stewies and the Sues and things of that sort. So it's also going to be weird not seeing Nneka in a Los Angeles Sparks uniform as well, as we talk about these players that are moving around. That's going to be super weird for me as well. But yeah, it's nice to see her get a fresh start. We know Los Angeles has had some turnover as well out there. So for her to take a chance to go somewhere else and try to, continue her career and the trajectory that it's always been on, like, I'm super excited to see how that works out as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's tough, man. You got Skylar, Drew Lloyd, NECA, and Ezzy.
Bruh.
Yeah. Well, what did Asia Wilson tweet?
Oh man, it's so petty. That's not a super team.
Yeah, I don't see y'all talking about Seattle's a super team enough for me. Yeah, that's pretty formidable right there, man. And I'm happy for Drew Lloyd because last season she looked incredibly frustrated at times. And it's just good to see her, get some players in there because I was shocked when she stayed. She just looked like she was over it. But they got some new life in Seattle. Not surprising that teams that are having the big signings are teams that have nice, shiny new buildings and practice facilities and locker rooms and whatnot. Maybe these other owners need to open their checkbook. Just saying. It's not a coincidence, but yeah, I'm happy for NECA to be able to just kind of explore and try something new and go into a situation where she can just carve another path. She had a great run in LA, and I expect that to continue. So those moves shifted things, man. Because Seattle, they had a tough season last year. With basically they're losing Stewie and Sue Bird in back-to-back years, but yeah, it looks like they're back, man.
Nah, for sure. And we still got to see what they end up doing in the draft, but man, that's a whole lot to deal with. Like a lot, and I just, even before you think about on court, it just kind of fits. And then there's history there between you got Sky reuniting with Jewel backcourt. You pick up where you left off from a long time ago or whatnot. But NECA doesn't have to, you got Ezzy next to you. You want to talk about not having like stress on your life? Young lady, please handle that. That person looks like they're trying to cause trouble for us. Please go make that go away. And it's not like NECA's not in the place where she still can't do it herself, but that's a hell of a pairing in the front court and the back court. And whoever's the lucky person who gets to play the three, like, you lucked out. Shout out to you. And then we saw last year, like you said, like you both said, Jewel did what she could with those youngsters, and probably look back, probably wasn't a fan of it last year while she was going through it. Those youngsters will be ready to play those supporting roles this season, and off the second unit. So should be a great look. Shifting gears just a little bit. Joel Embiid and Julius Randle's injury situations, their injury replacements have been named for this year's All-Star game. It will be Atlanta's Trae Young, Toronto's Scotty Barnes. Did they get this right? I guess we'll start with you, Ray.
My thing is always when it comes to All-Star teams or whatnot, there's more than 12 deserving players. Somebody's going to get snubbed. It is what it is. And even if they replace these two guys with two other people, they could have still gotten it right. So people just put too much into this. Maybe now all the Trae Young fans can shut up because I'm tired of seeing that discourse. He's in the game. Please just go away. If he would have been selected initially, I wouldn't have argued it. Trae is a really, really good player. But again, it's limited spots. Only so many people can make it. it just doesn't do anything for you to cry if your guy doesn't get selected. Now there are times when there's obvious blunders, like I think we talked about it last week with Jalen Brunson not starting. I think that should have been a no-brainer. But yeah, it's just not worth the energy. Glad to see those two get an opportunity. And unfortunately it was because two people aren't physically able to compete. But yeah, man, it's just good to see them be able to get on that stage, and hopefully they do well.
Octavia.
Yeah, like you said, like it's much to do about nothing. It's always somebody. Of course, I do feel like they try to spread the wealth around as far as teams. You don't want too many players from one team in the NBA All-Star game, I guess. I'm a little biased. I thought Kristaps could have got in. I definitely thought Derek White could have got in as well from Boston, but they already have two representatives. Again, like you said, you can't really get it wrong when it's a top player. Of course, I would like them to have. I always look at all-star selections as like your team got to be kind of good. That's the only part that kind of bothers me is like I just had to look up the standings to kind of figure out where they were. I mean, the Hawks are 10, the Raptors are 12 in the East. The Hawks are 22 and 28, so they're not even over 500. And neither are the Raptors. They're 17 and 33. I mean, if I stretched a little bit more, I might have been able to find somebody else that might have been a little bit more deserving than them. But I do believe with the NBA All-Star, it's not always about that. It's about what's going to put butts in the seats and money in your pocket as far as ticket sales. And Trae Young is definitely one of the top players in the league that has, as Reyes mentioned, a large following that are now going to be very ecstatic to tune in and watch the game. So I understand it in that aspect. It is what it is. I definitely think we're getting to the point where I know they talk about it at times where expanding the roster might be something to look into from 12 to 15. Just to, not to make it easier for anybody, but because there are a lot of deserving players. And as we've talked about in the past, that a lot of these things, go straight to, their contracts and what they're eligible for, if it's in your contract, if you're an all-star, XYZ. So I would like to see it, that way, so that maybe we could cut down on these snub talks because we have more players that can actually get in. But baby steps. I know for a while we had to just pick, a certain amount of guards, a certain amount of forwards, and a certain amount of centers. Now it's, whatever positionless at this point. So I think maybe in the next few years we'll get to that. But, congratulations to them. I think this is Scottie Barnes' first one. I'm not sure how many for Trae, maybe second or something like that. So congratulations to both of them. To get in is still a big deal, regardless if you're a replacement or not.
Yeah, I'm with Ray. Now the Trae Young discourse can end. Congratulations. He is in the game. He should fare well. They had to pick someone. Kudos to both of these guys. I hope they do their part in making sure that the game is extremely competitive and they don't just show up and aid some folks who choose to help it be less than that at times. So that's all I ask you two to do. If you do that, cool. If you don't do that, you won't disappoint me. It's what I expect.
Well, now Trae Young fans can just start talking about getting him on the Olympic team. I think I got something else to talk about.
Nah, we gotta let that go. Hey man,
There's like this mission has been passed successfully. Now we gotta go to the next one.
They need to have like a benching requirement for smaller guards to play internationally. Like I need that 225 pushed like 6 times. Like I'm so serious.
In a row.
Only for small guards though. Like I'm dead serious. If you look like they might, the whole 12 people over there might take turns posting you up. I need those 6 reps. Or tell me whatever Drew Holiday benches and squats, y'all need to match it. The rules are the rules. That's where we at. Otherwise, no small guards, man. Not international play. We ain't got time for that. Boys out there, you got point guards over there walking guards down to the low block for the 3-point line. I don't need any of that. So Trae Young fans, I apologize. I hope he has a great, fantastic time in the All-Star game. A great second half of the season. And again, I feel that way for every small guard in the league. I was upset when they took a trio of small guards in their last international competition, to which point they got played off the floor before they even played anybody good. Leave them at home. All-Star games only. Last but not least, good old khaki pants. Jim Harbaugh was named coach of the Los Angeles Chargers between the last time that we spoke. And in first presser, he had this to say. It needs to be multiple championships. We're going to be humble and hungry, but that's our goal. Our goal is to treat people in a first-class manner and to win multiple championships. End quote. Thoughts on his comments as he returns to the NFL? And shout out to him. He does a good job picking because he never goes somewhere where the cupboard is bare. Shout out to him. I see you, Jim. I give you credit on that, Mr. Khaki Pants. You never go somewhere where you got to start from scratch. You might have to ship some high-quality talent out, but there's blue chippers in the building. I see you. Thoughts on his comments as he returns to the NFL? Is he over-promising, or do you expect him to turn the Chargers around and get it done in the AFC because it's so easy to win there and everybody takes a turn in the representing the AFC and the champion? Like, come on, man. Octavia.
I mean, I feel like he just has so many contradictions in his speech. It's just kind of crazy. We're gonna win multiple championships, but we're gonna be humble. Come on, bro. You can't. That doesn't even go together. I mean, I get it. You want to, in your opening presser, you want to have, people have faith in you. We know he's a good coach. We know that he, can pick good player personnel and things of that sort. But we've seen the Chargers these last few years. I mean, I watch the games. I assume he watches them as well. We know what Justin Herbert can be. We know what Keenan Allen is. We know, what Austin Eckler is when he's not hurt. So, I mean, I get it in that aspect, but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Wilson. It's the AFC. It's not the NFC. It's a little tough over there. It's a little hard, The AFC championships, we want them. Everybody like, I need an AFC championship. It ain't been coming. And I mean, think about it. Not even just Patrick. Like, hope if you look at it, out of their last game, I mean, he still got to go through his brother too. Baltimore's been looking formidable as well. So I mean, Sean Payton had the Broncos looking decent towards the end of the year. The Raiders with Antonio Pierce, is he going to be able to get them up to date? Like, it's a little thick out there. It's a little thick out there in the AFC West. So I think you might want to, the part of the, win multiple championships and being humble part. I think you might want to start with the humble part. Let's start there. Let's get in the training camp. Let's get through the draft first. Let's do that first. Let's get. I think College Bowl day just finished. Like let's relax a little bit. Get through that. You got to get through the For the life of me, I can't say the combine. You got to get through the combine. Like let's do this in steps. I mean, because half the time the stadium is not even your stadium when you're playing there. So it's kind of levels to these things. But I understand you're eager. You're happy to be back. You don't have to worry about any penalties or sanctions in college football any further. I get it. You gotta say it. But I like the confidence, but I just chill a little bit. Just a little bit.
Right.
I never understand why people jump out the gate like that, man. Like it's completely unnecessary. It's a million things you could say in between the lowest expectations and multiple championships. Why you gotta just go all the way to the end? But this is where we are. And yeah, now when you don't deliver,
they're gonna play this clip on a loop.
Yeah. And now you gotta dramatically improve on what's happened there before immediately. So you done painted yourself in a corner, and don't let things start slow, because boy, that's. But yeah, whenever people do this to themselves, I selfishly await the downfall, because it's always hilarious. But no, seriously, he obviously knows what he's doing. But yeah, I just think the comments weren't necessary. Like you said, Octavia, start with the humble part. We're going to get in here and get our hands dirty and try to turn this thing around. Then if you have some success, get one first. How about that? That's pretty difficult in itself. Get one. Make the playoffs.
I don't know.
Yeah, do something. But yeah, good luck, bro.
I did my part not to pay any attention to it. Then I saw like something came out today when I was getting stuff together, and it was like the GM, bless his heart, he chose to double down on the comments. I'm like, y'all don't have to do these things. This is not college. Like if there was, you want to know what I would have did if that was me? I would have secured my next contract at the introductory press conference. All I would have talked about was Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs. That's all I would have talked about. Followed by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Followed by Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. That's what I would have discussed. And I would have thought about, like, I would have mentioned, we got to take the steps. It's a high mountain, whatever. It's going to take us some time to. What are you doing, man? You in a division with some of these folks. And no disrespect to your roster, there's nobody on your roster better than Max Crosby right now. Right now, there's no one better. Like Antonio Pierce gets to start with the Devontae Adams and a Max Crosby. You have neither of those two things on your roster. There are some pieces. I get that. You might have further to go because you got to jettison people out and bring other people in. And also, I think you brought your defense coordinator from college, which is cool, but that's the quarterbacks in the AFC. So, Mike Minter, bless your heart. Welcome to the AFC West. Bless your heart. And you don't even get to see this version of the Chiefs without wide receivers. They'll have them next year. During your entire tenure, they're going to have them. It's not going to be Kadarius Toney, MVS, and Rashee Rice trying to figure out life. It's going to be Rashee Rice and 3 new friends that Rashee just met out the draft. Maybe a trade here and there because people are slow. Who knows? But I would have underpromised so I could overdeliver. The rest of the AFC, man, what are you doing? If you wanted something like that, you could have just came and took over the Saints or something, NFC. Whole bunch of talent. Life could have been great. You could accidentally win a division real quick. What are you doing? As Ray said, you didn't have to do any of this. Your resume is your resume. You didn't have to do anything. But shout out to them. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Same time as always. We will be recording, which means Wednesdays as early as 9 a.m. It will be on our Roku channel. If you have a Roku television or device, all you have to do is add the Focus TV in the search box, double tap OK, and you've added the channel. Y'all have a great week.